So what is metabolic syndrome? Metabolic syndrome is a collection of these symptoms. In the UK, we mostly look at increases in waist circumference, increases in blood pressure, and a rise in blood glucose. But more broadly, metabolic syndrome has described this dyslipidemia profile, which is an increase in triglycerides and a reduced level of HDL cholesterol. And in my personal case, it was the increase in waist circumference and the increase in triglycerides and HDL were the symptoms that showed that I had metabolic syndrome. So the state of metabolic health in the UK at present is that 33% of UK adults have metabolic syndrome. They show one or more of these symptoms. It's by no means a only UK problem. This is prevalent across the globe, and it is suggested that insulin resistance is 3 times more common than diabetes, and it affects over 1 billion people worldwide, yet it's not routinely screened. And currently in the UK, if you go and see your GP, this is the most common assessment that you'll have as a measurement for your health in terms of blood pressure. And in the UK, 58% of UK adults have hypertension. As this is a symptom of metabolic syndrome, or what used to be called insulin resistance syndrome, could this suggest that insulin resistance is at a much higher level in the UK than we anticipate it to be? So insulin resistance is the root cause, and the symptoms here highlight insulin resistance and can be the markers of the prevalence of insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, being the root cause, has been identified as having a fundamental role in terms of heart disease, in terms of contributing to heart disease. It would be very uncommon, but not totally impossible, for someone to have heart disease without insulin resistance, and hypertension certainly plays into that. With some cancers, they're not caused but are made worse by insulin resistance because they accelerate the growth of the cancer cells. Fatty liver disease, the most common liver problem across the world, is directly caused by insulin resistance and the insulin promoting the growth and the production of fat within the liver. And type 2 diabetes, causing insulin resistance, causing hyperinsulinemia, and certainly the rise in blood glucose and insulin having to manage high blood sugar levels. With body fat and obesity, you cannot make fat cells grow without insulin being elevated, regardless of calories consumed. And in addition to these big 5 killers or problems, we have some that range from similarly lethal and tragic, like dementia and Alzheimer's disease being the most common form, and even stroke, which is one of the most or top expenses to the NHS. And then less lethal but very relevant to a population, and particularly heartbreaking for a couple, we have the most common forms of infertility. The most common in women is PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or more appropriately called metabolic infertility. And insulin directly affects estrogen production from the ovaries. And in men, erectile dysfunction. There was a study published many years ago that stated, is erectile dysfunction the first manifestation of insulin resistance in otherwise healthy men? And the answer is likely yes. due to what insulin resistance is doing to the blood vessels. So the hope is that a person who is taking medications for hypertension, diabetes, for migraine or fatty liver disease doesn't believe that they are individual problems. They are in fact symptoms of the same root cause. And once we know this, we can then impact upon that root cause. And as Dr. Robert Lustig suggested in his great book, Metabolic, that the root cause isn't actually druggable, but is foodable. And this is just highlights the important message and the power that nutrition has. So, do you have insulin resistance? Do you have high blood pressure? Do you have a family member with type 2 diabetes or gestational diabetes? Do you have PCOS if you're a woman, or erectile dysfunction as a man? And do you have fatty liver disease? Or do you have skin tags or dark patches on the back of the neck or underneath the armpits, this condition called acanthosis nigricans, because the skin really is the window into the metabolic soul and could be your first showcase that insulin resistance is prevalent. Because if you answered yes to any of these questions, you likely do have insulin resistance. The sad case is that most go undiagnosed.